Alright, listen up everyone. They've announced that the technical regulations are changing for next season. Now there's a risk a lot of our hard work could be undone if we're not careful, so let's figure out how to mitigate this. Drivers, take a look at the developments we have and let us know what you want to invest in protecting. Alright everyone, let's get on top of this. I know we were expecting some new developments this weekend, but some of them have failed quality control. Make sure you indicate what you'd like redeveloped via the workstation.
Hey, what's going on, guys? R&D here. Welcome back to an episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 17 today for the Japanese Grand Prix. And for the first time now, we've got the brand new cutscene for the R&D reset there, and a confirmation from Carl, our engineer, that indeed it's only the durability that will be reset into Season 2. So that will set up a really great foundation for us. We get to keep our engine, chassis, and aero upgrades, it looks like. You can see here on the menu, we've got that top hand orange text that will actually tell us about the reset. First of all, though, we have two upgrades that came on the car, which was brakes and the engine power, but the ultimate chassis weight reduction did fail, so we have to redo that. That will come in for next episode then, which is not too bad still, because we got the brakes upgrade done, and we also got that major engine update as well, so that'll be a good step forward. But you can see there on the top right, the text there, talking about the R&D, the kind of reset, if you will, and what we can do to counteract it is paying resource points against the parts that we are going to get reset. They cost half as much as they do usually. You can see adapt part is there on the bottom right, so adapting it to the new rules. So the only thing that will be reset for us is durability and reliability. Like I've spoken about, I think at Singapore, or I think literally last episode, I feel like durability and reliability will always be reset every season, I think. But I've gotten very, very lucky the fact that no other part of my R&D tree is going to get reset. I've seen other people have their engine, their chassis, and aero ones reset respectively. So we'll see how it goes in the future. But for now, we've been caught out very, very lucky for our very first attempt at going from one season to another in career mode. So we'll move forward then with this positive energy into the practice for the Japanese Grand Prix here at Suzuka.
Welcome to Suzuka in Japan, where today's practice session is about to begin on this figure-of-8 circuit. The Suzuka track never disappoints, and that's probably why it's so loved by drivers and fans alike. I'm here with Anthony Davidson once again. Nice to see you, Ant, and I wanted to ask you about how you go about improving the car over the course of a practice session. How much would you say is already known from the pre-race simulations? And how much do you have to do, how much do you have to work on with a real car on a real circuit?
Well, that's a good question, Crofty, and I suppose the simple answer is that there's no such thing as too much information. As you say, the bigger teams have very complex simulations, vast numbers of clever people crunching the numbers back at base, but what they can't tell you is stuff like how the track condition's going to be, or what the temperature's going to be doing over the course of the day, and how all of that's going to be interacting with the tyre. There are so many millions of tiny variables involved in getting these cars around a racetrack quickly, but the computer can't tailor the car to a driver's specific balance requirements. At some point, you still need to put a human being in there and have them feel it through the seat of their pants. And that's why we end up with different drivers having different setups. So what I'm trying to say is, Crofty, nothing beats on-track testing.
Right, so into practice then for the Japanese Grand Prix, and started off really quite green and very lacking of grip, really, especially on the medium tyres. You can see here having a major issue into what is not even usually a tricky corner, really. It's all about just kind of floating the car through and letting the engine doing the braking in Sector 1, but they're having major issues on the medium tyres. Eventually, though, we find the groove, we find the grip, and especially in FP2 and FP3, the track just got better and better. And I think kind of like we've had in a few other races, very much so wanting to avoid the hardest tyre available at the weekend for the race. So that was, in our case, the medium tyres. I definitely want to avoid that. Just didn't have very much grip, but otherwise looking good in the practice program, so we'll go forward into the...
Welcome to Japan and the impressive Suzuka track for today's qualifying session, where we should be underway shortly. Looking at this field today, Ants, do you think we're going to see anyone take a chance, maybe run the harder of the available compounds and save some of the grippy tyres for the race tomorrow?
Well, I'd be surprised in all honesty. It's only the front runners that really have the pace to get away with that, and even then, at the end of the day, it's a big risk. Track position is the most important thing, and it's rarely worth sacrificing for a slightly more optimal strategy in the race, so I doubt we're going to see anyone trying it. I have been wrong before though. We certainly do see some risky decisions every now and then, and it's a gamble that's sometimes worth taking. But if it were me in the car, I would want to be on the fastest tyre for my qualifying lap, without a doubt.
We're into Q1 here at Suzuka, and we're at the end of our first flying lap, and our one and only flying lap this will be. We're on a set of super soft tyres, so not electing to do a kind of alternative on the soft tyre compound qualifying here. We've been doing that for the last 3 rounds, but really just want to get into Q2. I've had a few shaky starts here and there with quali, so don't want to risk it. And even so, with that, we're in P12, with Magnussen up in P4, so again, Magnussen starting off better in qualifying, but then I feel like as the sessions go on, I get a bit better and better, and then definitely in the race, it's just a case of you get just even more comfortable with the circuit, really. So looking hopefully better in Q2, a bit of a shaky Sector 1 there, with a bit of a screen freeze as well, I think that was in Sector 1, but we go across the line then. At the moment it's going to be P6, but it is behind Hulkenberg, and by the time we get back to the garage and we start to kind of just go through the ticking minutes and go to the actual time delta itself, you can see I'm on the bubble in P10 there, so I think I'm definitely going to be down the order from P10, and I was correct. By the time I go out for my second flying lap in Q2, I'm down to P11, so I'm outside of the top 10 shootout at the moment. Need to find the time. You can see in Sector 1, finding a lot of time then, just taking the first corner more aggressively, and then obviously not having a screen freeze also helps there in Sector 1, and then through to the last 2 corners in the chicane, and trying to keep the time there we have on the top right. Ocon is the one in P10, Van Dorn behind us. What will it be? Across the line over the DRS, and we'll be up into P8, just ahead of Hulkenberg and behind Alonso. Magnussen gets up into P6 there, so we're matching him pretty damn well. But Lewis Hamilton is the major shock. He is out in Q2 in P13. I don't know if he hit traffic. He was trying to qualify on soft tyres, it looks like, maybe, but very surprising stuff there for the championship leader. I think I'm pretty sure he's still the championship leader, even though Ferrari have been trying to chase him down. I feel like he's still leading the championship, so he is out in Q2. So big disaster for him. And then we move into Q3. We don't start the lap off too amazingly. Remember, we only have 1 set of tyres for Q3 now, because I use super softs all the time. We lock up into the chicane, and that doesn't help me either. It's overcast conditions at the moment. We're going towards overcast conditions. I don't know if that's affected the track at all, but just definitely not a very tidy lap, and we're out in P8. Ahead of Hulkenberg, behind Alonso, and it will end up being P8. Magnussen gets P6, of course, helping that Hamilton is not there, so best of the rest is pretty much P6. You can see Ferrari, Merc, Ferrari, 2 Red Bull cars, but at least we've beaten both Renaults there. But Alonso does really well to split us, and a little bit more time to find, I feel. Sector 1 is definitely, I don't know, it seems a little bit trickier than F1 2017, in my opinion. Like, the car likes to step out, the rear end steps out a lot easier through the second part of the S section, so need to try and find the groove a bit more in the race later on. But we're going to move on then. Before we get into the race, actually, we have to pick a rival, because I didn't pick a rival after I beat Esteban Ocon. I forgot to pick one, so we've got a bit of a different choice now, obviously. We've got some of the top guys now, because we are into the latter stage of the championship. But in the end, I'm going to pick Nico Hulkenberg in the Renault. We should be able to beat him, and it should be a decent amount of respect points. Obviously, I'm just playing this as tactically as I can for the respect points to help in my career as we progress. So without further ado, then, let's get into the intro and go to the race.
We're live today from the Mie Prefecture of Japan as we look forward to the Japanese Grand Prix. The 2015 race here was one of only 5 Grand Prix in history to feature no retirements at all. Although with the highly competitive field we have today, I don't expect we'll be repeating that stat anytime soon. 18 corners make up a lap of the incredible figure-of-8 Suzuka circuit, with 10 to the right and 8 to the left, for a distance of 3.6 miles. Average lap speeds around here are fairly quick. If it stays dry, then expect somewhere in the region of 136 miles per hour. We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, with Daniel Ricciardo slotting in alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Magnussen, Alonso, the engineer, and Raikkonen. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Hulkenberg, Sainz, Ocon, and Stoffel Van Dorn. Bottas, Gasly, Max Verstappen, and Hartley, Ericsson, Stroll, Lewis Hamilton, and Charles Leclerc. Perez and Sergei Sirotkin rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So thanks to some penalties from the Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes, guys, we start up now in P5 and our teammate is in P3 just ahead of us. So again, like Russia, getting a little bit lucky with the grid penalties here. And so unlike Russia though, let's try and make the best of it. We do have a fresh engine in the car, of course, so we're not going to go backwards now from a high position. And the hope is that Magnussen now, also being up in high position in P3 on the grid, can do pretty damn well. So I think it can be a really solid double points scoring position afternoon this time around Suzuka. It's going to be a two-stop, it looks like. The team are saying Super's off to 2 set of soft tyres. Inclined to agree with them, so we'll just go with that for now and see how it goes on the fly as per usual, and you know, try and react to the AI if need be. But here we go then to 5 red lights to the Japanese Grand Prix, round number 17 of the season 1 of F1 2018 career mode is underway. Far out and it's a great start there from Kevin Magnussen. He's down the inside of both the Ferrari and the Red Bull car into turn 1. He'll get the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix. What a stunning start there from my teammate. We're still behind Fernando Alonso. We had an okay start, but nothing compared to Kevin Magnussen there, who's now leading Vettel, Ricciardo. We're trying to get around the outside of Alonso. Doesn't work out. A bit of a momentum swing on the left though, and now we find a bit of room on the outside, maybe to the inside. Alonso chops us off a little bit there. Tiny bit of contact, but Alonso, being the man he is, going to be very aggressive on the defending there, and we're almost getting backed up into Raikkonen, the 2 Renaults behind, and then the Force India. But what a flyer there for Kevin Magnussen. I mean, we've talked about it before, how far this car has come, how far Kevin Magnussen has come so far this season. He's got the only win the team has got, and now he's leading another Grand Prix. Led the Singapore Grand Prix for quite a fair bit. Didn't work out for him in the end with a DNF there, but still, let's see how this goes then, because Vettel's still behind him. We've got ahead of Alonso then through 130R down to the chicane, but Alonso might come back at me into the first corner of the next lap, as well as Raikkonen perhaps. So let's see how he goes down the inside. We'll break a little bit early into turn 1 and try and do him the dummy down the inside, the switchback move, and it's worked out an absolute treat. I'm going to keep P4 there, and Alonso will have to try again if he wants to get me. Meanwhile now, Vettel will try and attack Magnussen for P1 in the Grand Prix. Pull out to the left-hand side, down the inside of 130R. Probably inevitable pass there. Pushes off Magnussen a little bit off circuit almost, and K-Mag has to settle for P2. I don't know if I'll have any kind of traction in speed, maybe, to get him back. It doesn't look like it, as Vettel literally waltzes away then through the last corner, has all the downforce in the world, and so Magnussen's already probably looking behind to Ricciardo. So it looks like the dream is kind of over, but you would have expected maybe that would have been the case, because as much as the car has come a long way, it still has a long way to go to really go toe-to-toe completely with the top cars. And Raikkonen, speaking about Ferraris overtaking Haas cars, Raikkonen now goes down the inside of me. There's a similar move to Vettel, pushing me off wide, although Raikkonen locks up into the last chicane, so we're going to try and go re-overtake him around the outside. He's on soft tyres here, so he's playing a bit of a longer game. Of course, Raikkonen, well, actually, no, technically, no, he did qualify into Q3, obviously, so he qualified into Q2 on softs then, probably, and so he's tactically done that quite well, so he can go a lot longer in this Grand Prix than I can on my super soft tyres, and he's passed me. I tried to fight him back as much as I could into turn 1, just didn't work out there, so the Ferraris just have too much pace for us today as a team, and it might be, oh no, it might be the case for the Red Bull car, but no, Ricciardo goes for the move and instead gets nearly sent to the wall. I have no idea how on earth he's kept that out of the wall. That was some skillful driving right there to kind of just slam on the brake, somehow slide it across the grass and not hit the wall on the left-hand side there. But he slowed down enough there, and myself and Raikkonen and Hülkenberg up there on the top left have overtaken him. Alonso's already come in for his pit stop then. And so as you look at a replay then, Ricciardo pulling out to the inside, trying to make the move on Magnussen that Vettel did, but Magnussen this time round squeezed a lot harder, and there you go. Wow, miracle slide there for Ricciardo to just slide it nice, nonchalantly to the side and just graze the wall a little bit with the sidewall of the tyre, but no damage done on the front wing. Meanwhile now, as we move back on towards lap 7, and Magnussen's made his pit stop, as well as I think, no, both Ferraris actually stay out there, so both Ferraris going longer. It's just K-Mag that's in, so we're up into P3. Ricciardo's behind us, still going well. He's re-overtaking Hülkenberg, it looks like, so he's getting back into this race. We're in now on lap 7, along with Sebastian Vettel, I believe, that's also in, so Raikkonen is the only one going longer in this race on a set of soft tyres then, but Vettel in. I think Ricciardo might have come in with us, and Merck as well. of Lewis Hamilton, I'm going to guess, because I think Bottas got enough penalties to be pushed down the order. But we're going to come out now behind Magnussen. You can see Magnussen in traffic there, and there goes Alonso, I think, in the McLaren actually, and also Hulkenberg. So the undercar has worked an absolute treat here around Suzuka. So Hulkenberg and Alonso both passed us, so we're going to have to watch out for that for the next pit stop and make sure we pit a little bit earlier maybe to not get undercut once again. But now we watch two moves being made. Van Dorn down the inside of the Force India and Vettel around the outside of traffic. This is technically on the Toro Rosso. Oh, he's made contact with the Toro Rosso, and Vettel loses it, and he can't control the car, and he slammed the car into the wall on the left, completely the opposite of Daniel Ricciardo. Vettel cannot steer the Ferrari in a straight line there, and he slammed it straight into the wall. And so for the second time now in 3 episodes, Vettel is out of a Grand Prix with a tyre on the top of his chassis and the car, and that has just not been great for Vettel. That hasn't been the one for Sebastian Vettel. He tries to go around the outside of the Toro Rosso, just pure traffic, and weird hit. But then look at this, he just can't get the neck wrangled of that Ferrari, like a bucking Bronco almost, and it just completely slams into the wall there. So very, very odd, very odd. I would have thought he would have been able to control that. He had enough time, enough space, but no, just left, right, and then left again, and straight into the wall and out this Grand Prix. So that is going to be interesting, because that might technically put Magnussen into a net race lead, because he was second, Raikkonen was third on a bit of a different strategy, but still, I think it might work out for him, so we'll have to see about that. But we're focused now back on trying to overtake Hulkenberg. We're only caught up to him now on lap 10. It's Bottas that's right up my chuff, actually, so that must have been Bottas that pit with me. Meanwhile, Magnussen overtakes the Sauber Alfa Romeo down the inside of 130R, showing Vettel how to do it down the inside rather than the outside there, and pushing the car on the outside off wide, and that's Vettel's car still stricken there on the sideline. So Magnussen will be technically into a net race lead pretty much. So that is going to be pretty damn exciting. So now it's all just about Raikkonen, because after Raikkonen it was me down the road. Obviously now I've lost some time and I'm behind Hulkenberg and Alonso once again, but pretty much it was me next up after Raikkonen. So Magnussen only has to contend with one Ferrari this afternoon. Meanwhile, we overtake Nico Hulkenberg, or try to overtake him in the S section, and we're getting caught up in a little bit of traffic of our own now. We've got Daniel Ricciardo, Alonso, and we've got Alfa Romeo and Williams going side by side. So Ricciardo's also jumped me then in the undercut, so that's how badly my tyres went off there. He's on a set of mediums though, Ricciardo, so I would surely think we can overtake him. He backs out of that quite easily actually, because he's a little bit startled. We try to go down the inside of Fernando Alonso, doesn't work out in the end I don't think, because he'll get that, and for now both of us stuck behind the Sauber and Williams car. But it's all kicking off a little bit now on lap 11. A little bit confusing to see where everyone is in it, but I believe the order should be something like Magnussen, Raikkonen, myself, once we overtake Alonso, that is. So right now at the moment it's Alonso in third, myself in fourth, Ricciardo then, and Hulkenberg. And obviously the 2 cars ahead of Alonso are just effectively out of sync of the Grand Prix in terms of they've not made a pit stop yet. They've started on the set of tyres they're currently on, whereas all of us have made 1 pit stop already. I mean, Alonso made a very early pit stop, I think around lap 4 or 5 it was. Yeah, very, very early. Kind of weird, but it kind of worked out for him, obviously, as Alonso now goes down the inside of Leclerc. And Leclerc and Alonso once again do battle, not only in real life, but in the game. And we go down the inside, or around the outside, rather, of Leclerc. And now try and see if we make a move on Alonso. Not quite yet. We'll go through the last corner, though. And we'll have DRS, ERS obviously deploying on overtake mode. We've got standard, though, because we're a little bit low on fuel. But here we go, to the left-hand side. Alonso goes to the middle. He's got DRS off Leclerc, I think that was. But on the outside of turn 1, we'll have the balls to keep it in. Break a little bit later, and we're up what will be P9 on lap 12 here in this Grand Prix. So it kind of just shows you the alternative strategies that a lot of people are using up ahead of us compared to myself, Magnussen, Alonso, Ricciardo, Bottas even as well. I think it looks like a lot of us are trying this 2-stop with super soft as 2 sets of soft tyres, whereas maybe these guys in the midfield, lower midfield tier, obviously Williams, one of them might be trying the soft to mediums, I would say. I nearly said to Williams, which wouldn't have made any kind of sense. But we're on to lap 13 then, up into P6 it'll be then. Alonso tries to close up. We're going to have a little bit looking behind. I was a little bit concerned about him overtaking us, but no, it's fine. Going to keep P6, and Hamilton now has come out ahead of us. So that's how much time I lost in that fight with that big train with Ricciardo, Hulkenberg and Alonso, is that Hamilton, who was nowhere near us I don't think, has made it a huge undercut. And he's now ahead of us. He's on medium tyres as well, so I think he must have gone soft to medium maybe, or super soft to medium, just stretched it out. But he is now ahead of us, and he's going to the end of the Grand Prix. So I don't know, we might find it tough to be ahead of Hamilton, but meanwhile, Magnussen ahead of Raikkonen, but not for too long. Magnussen, that is a failure on the car, and I think that is going to be terminal. It doesn't look good for K-Mag. I was going to say he's leading the Grand Prix from Raikkonen, but no, he pulls up, and that is so frustrating to see. K-Mag out of the Grand Prix, mechanical failure. That is 2 race wins potentially robbed for K-Mag. He could have been on 3 this season. He won Monaco. He might have won Singapore if the safety car hadn't come out. And obviously, in the end, he DNF'd out of that Grand Prix anyway. And here, he was still on for the win, maybe. He was still leading halfway through the Grand Prix, more than halfway through the Grand Prix. And he's now dealt that DNF. And so by the time we get to lap 18, we're coming in now. We've got, about 9 laps to go in this Grand Prix. We're going to go on to another set of soft tyres because the soft tyre was working really well. But unfortunately for me now, it looks like we've slowly realised as a team the 2-stop is not the one. It's not the strategy we wanted to be on, and we should have tried to stretch it to a 1-stop. I think that's what Hamilton actually did. He got knocked out in Q2 obviously actually, because so he must have been on soft tyres and gone to the mediums. But even Raikkonen, who was Raikkonen was also on soft as well. So actually we were screwed either way, because Vettel surely would have done the same strategy actually. So really it was a case of actually all the Q2 runners, all the runners that managed to start on a set of soft tyres, all managed to pick the best strategy, because if you were in Q3 on super softs, it just wasn't going to work out. So I've come out behind Ricciardo and Hamilton, and I'm now in P4 off the podium. It's Raikkonen, Hamilton, Ricciardo as your podium at the moment. And so we just go into the end of the Grand Prix and we try and do the best we can. But at the moment, the real fight is between Pierre Gasly, this is in the Toro Rosso Honda, trying to actually overtake Valtteri Bottas. So this is quite crazy to see that Gasly appears to have some decent pace in that Toro Rosso car. And also at the same time, you've got Verstappen fighting Alonso. Verstappen slow at the beginning of this Grand Prix with a penalty, obviously. Ricciardo was way up there on the grid, on the first row of the grid with no penalty. Verstappen's been trying to close back with penalties. And we move on later. Verstappen's overtaken Fernando Alonso, but now this is Gasly again trying for the second time now this afternoon to overtake a Mercedes car in a Toro Rosso. Doesn't work out down the inside there, and now surely Verstappen will overtake him. He'll have seniority, you know, the bigger sister team of the Red Bull pairing, so hopefully this will be for Helmut Marko's sake and Verstappen's sake an easy overtake for Verstappen. But we'll see if Gasly's going to put up a fight. Of course, in real life, Gasly and Verstappen will be teammates in real life, so nice to see them duel right now here on the F1 2018 game. But Verstappen now down the inside, and Gasly makes a mistake on purpose or not. He gets overtaken by Verstappen now, and Verstappen can chase after Valtteri Bottas, which will be quite a good recovery drive, because I think Verstappen was way down in like at least the bottom, I think 8 positions at least, I think. So he's had to do a lot of driving to catch back up into these decent kind of middle points paying positions. He's behind, he's going to stick behind Bottas through 130i. He's going to wait patiently until the chicane and then the last corner. So probably something Gasly should have tried to do, because both times Gasly tried to make a move down the inside of 130i, just didn't work out. And so we're on board briefly with Bottas, back to focusing on Verstappen. Here he comes now, DRS open, and this would be a move on the outside then, the normal racing line that is on the outside, and he goes round the outside. Bottas has nothing to answer for it on the soft tyres, and Verstappen's just got better pace there, and so he's up the order. And so by the time we come through to the end of the Grand Prix, it is Kimi Raikkonen that wins it from Hamilton, Ricciardo, myself in 4th place. Verstappen will finish up in 5th place there. And so that ends off a kind of so-and-so Grand Prix. I felt like we could have got the podium easily, but it was just the strategy. But like I kind of realised halfway through that race, I was kind of, and everyone else that started on super softs was forced onto a 2-stop. There just really wasn't, unless I did something like China, where I stretched the super softs a lot, but they just weren't having it. It was always going to end up like this, so that's a little bit unfortunate, really, but that's just the way that it sometimes goes. We've had the rubber of the green. Remember, sometimes when we've been knocked out in Q2, we've had the better strategy, a la Paul Ricard at France. We did that to Raikkonen, so Raikkonen's just done the same to us, and he's jumped us with the 1-stop. Even despite, you know, not qualifying as well and going down the order. So, fair play to him.
Well done, good finish. You stepped up and achieved what we asked. Good job.
That's a fantastic performance from Ferrari. It hardly looked in doubt. So, Ant, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
Well, I think the track conditions just really suited their car today. Wind, track temperature, you name it. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature. So the more easily you can keep them there, the better your race tends to go. And that's exactly what happened. Their car just looks so comfortable out there.
And as we can see, it's time for the podium, and as the drivers make their way out, there's a familiar red suit making its way to the top step. Fantastic win for Ferrari. And now,
So like I said, mixed emotions at the Japanese Grand Prix, and another race of what could have been, like was the case in Singapore, and really also Russia as well, because if I hadn't have had a bad engine for the last episode in Russia, I could have been right up there with Magnussen. But it will mean some bad news for us in the championship. No real change for us in the standings for the drivers. Verstappen does get Magnussen, but I think you can see where I'm going with this now. As we move on to the constructors, Red Bull now are ahead of Haas once again. They retake that kind of rightful third slot. So we've only got 4 rounds to go to try and re-overtake Red Bull. There's still not a lot of points in it, so it's still very much possible, but we need to make sure now we're actually converting these good chances into wins, into podiums, because Magnussen there leading the Grand Prix. The team needs to sort out the mechanical issues there, because I really think he would have had a very good chance of actually winning that thing and staying ahead of Ferrari, because obviously Vettel overtook us, but Raikkonen's AI is a different matter. You just don't know. And then also for us, well, we were doomed from the start when we committed to a 2-stop, which we had to because the super soft just didn't go that far. I could have gone to super soft to medium, but like I said, I didn't feel very confident about medium tyres, so that's why I didn't want to. So, by the way, pretty crazy Japanese Grand Prix besides that, because we saw that Ricciardo spin, the Vettel crash, and also the engine blowout for Magnussen, which is unfortunate. But I didn't mention it at the start, but we saved 2 of the reliability parts there towards next season. So we've adapted 2 of them, which is not the general wear. We adapted the gearbox wear and the MGUH, which we bought, because the general wear, that'll cost only 500 points, and that'll be really easy to do straight away at the beginning of the season. So I'm going to leave that for round 1, even though it'll get reset. We'll just rebuy it. But the thing that I can't rebuy until I do that general wear is the adapt part. But something that I found out only recently, guys, through this is you can actually adapt a part that is along the tree. Say if you have an ultimate upgrade, you can adapt the ultimate upgrade for next year's season, and you can leave the other stuff that gets reset. So effectively, you can work backwards from the tree almost for next season. So a really, really dynamic way of doing it, and so that's what we've done there. And so yeah, with 4 rounds to go, it's now all head on, trying to keep up with Red Bull and trying to see if we can get them back. You can see in the chart there, we're so close to Red Bull now. We've made a real big upward trajectory into the Japanese Grand Prix, and by next episode, if the upgrades come through, we do maybe one more for Brazilian Grand Prix perhaps, we could be ahead of Red Bull on paper, which could be pretty damn awesome just to see as a kind of success story for this season, and then you build on for next season. But anyway, nonetheless, guys, if you have enjoyed the episode, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, do subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been Aarava, hope you enjoyed the day, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.